My name is Lorraine Lathan, and I am the president of Jump the Sun Consultants and the director of the Wisconsin African American Tobacco Prevention Network, as well as the Poverty Network. So welcome to our annual No Menthol Sunday kickoff virtual event. It is my pleasure to introduce to you our MC for today. Her name is Vivian King. Vivian King has served as our MC for the last 3 years. She's an author, speaker, communications expert, and connector. She founded Vivian L. King Connections, LLC in the same year she wrote her book, When the Words Suddenly Stopped, Finding My Voice Again After a Massive Stroke. The book, which was launched in March of 2020, was an Amazon bestseller in 3 categories and a top finalist in the Global Author Elite Awards in 2020. Before founding her business, she enjoyed an extensive career in broadcast journalism, public relations, and community relations. Please join me in welcoming our MC, Miss Vivian King.
Thank you, Lorraine, and good morning, everyone. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining us today for the Wisconsin No Menthol Sunday 2022 kickoff event. I saw lots of people from across the country, from various organizations. I think I saw Alabama, DC, and it's so great to have all of you with us today. And I know Lorraine and the committee totally appreciate it. Today's event will help faith leaders and others learn more about how tobacco has harmed the health of generations of African Americans and the role that congregants and the community can play in igniting a movement toward improved Black health. The theme of this year's No Menthol Sunday is bold awareness, a fight to the finish. That fight represents the struggle of people who have tried to quit using tobacco, and also the fight for accountability from an industry that has targeted our communities for decades with menthol products. But times are changing, and we are on the verge of a major breakthrough. The Food and Drug Administration, more commonly known as the FDA, is expected to announce new regulations on menthol soon. And this news is promising, but as this year's theme of No Menthol Sunday notes, the fight is not over. Together, we will fight to the finish. We have some powerful friends on the front line with us. One is here to provide our official welcome. We are honored to share a message today from Wisconsin Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. Lieutenant Governor Barnes is the first African American to serve as a lieutenant governor in Wisconsin and the second African American to ever hold statewide office. Lieutenant Governor Barnes.
Hey everybody, I'm Lieutenant Governor Mandela Barnes. I want to welcome you all to the No Menthol Sunday kickoff event. Just want to say thank you to the Wisconsin African American Tobacco Prevention Network for all of your tireless work on No Menthol Sunday and for bringing light to this issue. We see tobacco companies have had a long and storied history of targeting menthol flavored tobacco products to Black communities, especially young people. Now, kids and families of color are exposed to 2 to 3 times as many cigarette ads. This contributes to higher rates of usage amongst Black and middle and high school students compared to white students. And it's not just cigarettes, it's e-cigarettes and other vapor products. Now, the FDA has made flavor vape products illegal, but they made an exception for menthol products. Now, let's talk about health equity, because Black people already face higher rates of heart disease, various forms of cancer, asthma, and other chronic illness. And this problem only makes it worse. This isn't due to individual action, but it's due to centuries of policies and actions like those of tobacco companies. And we see that they've had a significant result in racial inequities. Now, in line with the theme, a fight to the finish, we have to take action to eliminate these inequities. And all Black kids and families and communities have exactly what they need to be healthy and to thrive. Thank you so much for participating. It's good to see you all.
So I mentioned our powerful friends. They continue to join us. Our next welcoming message is from Milwaukee County Executive David Crowley. A lifelong Milwaukee resident, Executive Crowley was elected to the office in 2020. Prior to that, he served 2 terms in the state.
Greetings, everyone. I am County Executive David Crowley, and it is an honor to be with you all as part of this national observance that stresses not only the impact, but the detrimental role of menthol and tobacco use in communities of color. Milwaukee County, we have a vision, and that vision is that we will become the healthiest county in the state of Wisconsin by achieving racial equity. So we are working vigorously to dismantle institutional racism and build up policies, practices, and a culture that ensures race no longer predicts health outcomes and outcomes for everyone improve. And that is why I stand in support of No Menthol Sunday, as it serves as an opportunity for our faith communities and all of us as a community to engage and empower congregants on critical health issues related to menthol. And as this year's theme states, now is a bold time for a bold awareness and a fight to the finish. And we have the opportunity to end the harm from menthol as we all do our best to protect our young people in our most vulnerable communities. So let's act on it. Thank you for this opportunity to share, and you can count on me on this fight to the finish.
Thank you very much, County Executive Crowley. Now, do you know that a poem was created in honor of No Menthol Sunday 2022? Well, here is spoken word artist Shaquita McElroy, more commonly and known to her friends as Shy. Shy.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having me. This poem is called The War Is Not Done. That flick of flame followed shortly by that cloud of thick smoke lets me know that I beat my battle, but my war is not done. The relief on the smoker's face lets me know that I beat my battle, but my war is not done. As I smell the menthol aroma coming from the end of the cigarette that burns hot like the sun, I realize that I beat my battle, but my war is not done. See, the war was my courageous determination to quit. So I relieved myself of being exhausted and sick. Then with God, I delivered myself and made life my new fix. And they say old habits are hard to break. Yeah, well, I broke free of tobacco use. I broke free of lung abuse. I broke free of that generational curse of, baby, light this on the stove, would you? So you see, with God, all things are possible. And what we start, he shall finish. So until the urge and the thought of tobacco use from my mind has been diminished, me and my God will unite in the fight to the finish. Thank you.
Thank you, Shy. And she is definitely not living up to her name, because there was nothing shy about that. What a great, great poem. Thank you so much. Now, the next part of our program is a panel discussion featuring 3 key figures in the battle against the tobacco industry. Moderating this panel will be Pastor Walter Lanier. Pastor Lanier is a jack of all trades, if you will. He is a husband, he is a father, he is an attorney, pastor, teacher, educator, and social entrepreneur with a deep commitment to being a liberating force in Milwaukee. He is the senior pastor of Progressive Baptist Church of Milwaukee, and he is the president and CEO of the African American Leadership Alliance Milwaukee. Please welcome Pastor Walter Lanier.
Good morning and welcome everybody. We are glad to have everybody here. Great to hear from our Lieutenant Governor, our county executive. And as Vivian has said, nothing shy about Shy. The war is not done. Thank you for your powerful words to get us inspired. My task here this morning is to introduce our panelists. Thank you for joining us. I'm pleased to serve as a moderator for today. It is a great opportunity for me to be here to talk to our panel featuring guests who have gone toe-to-toe with the tobacco industry and have won. Here are now our panelists. First panelist is Carol Magruder. Carol is a seasoned veteran of California's tobacco control experience and a founding member and co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council, created to inform the direction of tobacco and control policy practices and priorities. The council works at the intersection of public health policy and social injustice. Our second panelist is Sharon Eubanks. Sharon served as the lead counsel on behalf of the United States in the largest civil racketeer influence and corrupt organizations, AKA RICO, enforcement action ever filed, United States versus Philip Morris. She is a member of the advisory committee for the Center for tobacco control research and education at the University of California, San Francisco. And she also serves as a member of the board and an officer of Americans for Non-Smokers' Rights. And then last but not least, our third panelist is Mark Meaney. Mark Meaney is the Deputy Director of Commercial Tobacco Control and Policy at the Public Health Law Center. Mark leads a team of attorneys working to support tobacco control policy change throughout the United States. All right, now we are prepared to jump into our panel and our panel discussions. Ms. Magruder will answer the first question first, followed by Ms. Eubanks and then Mr. Meaney. And then we will rotate through so everybody has a chance to answer questions first. Our panelists will have 2 minutes to answer each question. And at the end, we'll have 1 minute to deliver a closing remark. So let us begin with our first question. And the order is Magruder, Eubanks, and Meaney. The first question for each of you is please share a personal story about how menthol or tobacco in general has impacted you.
Good morning. I believe I go first. First, I just want to give thanks to Lorraine Latham and her leadership on our national fight. I just enjoy zooming in to be with you whenever I can. So I'm Carol Magruder, co-chair of the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. And most of our council members have been personally impacted by tobacco, tobacco-induced diseases. And what comes to my mind is the loss of my aunt. She was a cousin, but on the age of my mother. Her name was Barbara Lois Oldham in Los Angeles. And she was a woman who helped to shape me and form me as I was growing into a young woman in Los Angeles. I lived with she and her husband, and she was a heavy smoker and very ashamed when she got emphysema. She was very ashamed of it and felt complicit. So this was before I got involved in the tobacco control movement, which really reshaped her addiction and her death at the age of 58 years old from tobacco. She was such a bright, intelligent woman who could do anything, but she could not kick nicotine. And that was kind of one of her feelings of failure. And so she never complained when she was ill. It took her about 5 years to pass. Never complained about, all of the things that happen when you are dying from a tobacco-induced diseases, the pain, the discomfort. And I think about her when I do my work because she was so strong, and she loved to travel and encourage me to be me and to do me. And so, I dedicate a lot of my work to her legacy and her influence in my life.
Thank you, Carol. Now let's go to Sharon Eubanks, same question.
Thank you for having me. It's great to be here in Wisconsin from DC. And the question, it does get personal, and it says give a personal experience. Well, my father was 52 years old when he died from lung cancer. I've never seen a photograph of him when he wasn't holding a cigarette in his hand. When we were kids, he would send us into the store, and so would my mom, to buy their brands. His was Cool, which is the menthol, and my mom's was Salem, also menthol. My mother continued to smoke for 10 years, and well, actually more than that, after my father's death. And finally, when we put the case together, we being the Justice Department against the tobacco industry, I asked my mother to come to the opening statement, where I was going to lay out what these companies had done, what we expected to prove in at the trial that went on for 9 months. And I still remember going home that afternoon and driving my mother home from that opening statement, how she said, I didn't know all of that was happening. I didn't know that was true. I said, well, it was. And, it's an addictive product. A lot was done to keep you smoking. So I felt very strongly as we went forward in the case that I had a real message to convey to people. And even though the case was decided some years ago, there's still a lot we can learn from what's in those findings from the court.
Thank you, Attorney Eubanks, for sharing with us. Next, we'll go to Deputy Director Mark Meaney.
well, I think amen to what Ms. Eubanks said. I think first of all, I just want to say, echo, I am really grateful to be on this panel. I feel both overwhelmed and a little intimidated. It's such an incredible group of people here. But thank you again for inviting me. And I just want to say that I've, Ms. Eubanks is a giant in our field as an attorney who really defeated the tobacco industry, which is very difficult to do. And that is a landmark case that is informing everything that we do every single day. And Ms. Magruder, I've had the pleasure of working with since I started in this world, and I've learned more than I could possibly tell you from all of her work. And I think she has cloned herself many times because she is at every hearing everywhere around the country. And it's an amazing, inspiring to watch her work. So again, my experience, I just jumping into the actual question here, is that I grew up as part of the Joe Camel generation, and I was a smoker for about 10 years, many of them when I was living in Madison. And it wasn't until much later that I realized, how the industry had affected that. I was like so many, started before I was of legal age, but I was able to quit eventually. And as I think we all know, that type of marketing was eliminated. And I think, probably because it was targeting people who look like me. And I think it wasn't until I started working in this area that I realized, wow, this is, all of the marketing, the predatory marketing that the tobacco industry has done using menthol products is being done in a way that so many people aren't seeing. It's this whole systemic racism magnified in a way, or under the, it's magnified in a way in terms of the health effects and health inequities that it's causing, but it's hidden from so many people in the world. And when the Tobacco Control Act was passed and it excluded menthol, I think that just speaks volumes to how effective the industry is in continuing to perpetuate and exacerbate health disparities. And so we have made that the primary goal of our organization, is eliminating menthol. And we've worked with Ms. Magruder, as I said, and with our friends from the Center for Black Health and Equity, and learning from them and in helping to partner with them. And we do, kind of the background legal work and understanding the policy implications and policy development piece. But it's through that I think we have come to understand that there is no more important issue.
Thank you, Mark. Appreciate you and appreciate everybody sharing those very real, powerful, and personal stories. For our second question, we're going to start with Attorney Eubanks, and then you, Director Meaney, and then to Ms. Magruder. Second question. This year's theme for No Menthol Sunday is Bold Awareness, a Fight to the Finish. You've all been involved in some major battles with the tobacco industry. Can you talk about those battles and how were you able to find success? Starting first with Councilor Eubanks.
Well, first, let me say, Mark, thank you. Those were very kind words. Now let's talk about what happened here. There was this lawsuit that we filed in 1999, and I made some notes because I'm going to talk quickly, but if you want the full story, you can get my book. It's called Bad Acts, the Racketeering Case Against the Tobacco Industry, published by the American Public Health Association. Now, let's talk about what happened here. We filed this lawsuit against the tobacco industry on behalf of the people of the United States in federal district court in Washington, D.C. And this was not an ordinary case. This was a racketeering case. The same statute that the government used to prosecute the mafia and gangs and other illegal organizations was what we used, the civil side of that law, to go against this industry, because they are just as organized crime. They're no different from that. They lied about their marketing. They lied about the harmful effects of their product. They lied about addiction. They destroyed documents. They did all of those things, and we proved that at court. The menthol issue was something that came up in our litigation as well, and was very important because one of the things that we were able to demonstrate is that they had targeted particularly Black and brown people. And what's so bad about that? Well, one of the things is that it's more difficult to quit when you smoke menthol cigarettes because they make it easier for the smoke to go down. that's certainly something, because it masks the harsh chemicals as they go down your throat. Also, it's a deeper way that a menthol smoker smokes, and oftentimes that can lead to worse kinds of cancer that result from that. The company's own internal documents point these things out. So they wanted to keep smokers smoking, so they targeted Black and brown people in the ads. So what are the numbers? Some of this is stunning, I think. 85% of Black smokers smoke menthol cigarettes. 46% of Hispanic smokers smoke menthol, and 39% of Asian Americans smoke menthol cigarettes. So why is race important? Race is important here because the people who smoke menthol and who inhale more deadly have a harder time quitting. It's more difficult to quit. That's how the health effects of smoking have a disproportionate impact on the Black community. The success of our case, as I said, you can read all of the details in the book, but our success of the case was a decision that was over 1,700 pages long by the judge in the case, a neutral observer of the facts, determining the facts, who gave specific findings about the conduct of this industry, what it had done, and the likelihood that they were going to continue doing that into the future. Sadly enough, and we'll talk a little bit more about this, I'm sure in response to some of the other inquiries, is that menthol cigarettes were not covered by the 2009 legislation that was signed that banned flavors. Didn't ban menthol, it left it there. And I'll never forget a quote by Secretary of Health and Human Services, Joe Califano, that this act in leaving out menthol in 2009, in the law that President Obama signed from leaving menthol out of the flavor ban, was just like sending Black children to the back of the bus again. And now we're coming up on perhaps something is about to happen with the FDA. God knows, it's been a long time coming. We look forward to that happening.
Thank you, Counselor. We appreciate that rich history, and we'll look forward to grabbing your book. And not many, I just looked on Amazon, so I have to talk with you about that later. Let's go next to Director Meaney. Can you talk about the battles and how you were able to find success?
Sure, thank you. So our organization works generally a little bit more in the background. And what we try to do is we try to make sure that those who are really on the front lines are equipped with both the policy and the legal expertise that they need to accomplish their goals. So we understand the law, we understand the authority to move forward with policies that include menthol, the importance of that, the justification, using a lot of the information that Ms. Eubanks just provided to us, how important this issue is and how much we are damaging Black and brown communities if we don't include menthol in these policies. And so that has to be a fundamental, essential element of that. When there's litigation, and we know there's plenty of litigation, that tobacco industry we know how important this is to the industry because of how often they are suing. And they have so far lost every lawsuit. So we file amicus briefs or friend of the court briefs to make sure that the public health perspective is part of the court's record in all of these cases. We follow the FDA very closely, and sometimes it feels like we're battling the industry and the FDA at the same time. And I think probably the primary example of that was almost a decade ago when in 2013, when again working with Ms. Magruder and her colleagues at the ATCLC. Primarily, we drafted a citizen petition, which was something you file with the FDA, and it sort of requires them to take a step, to take some sort of an action on that. And my colleague Joelle Lester was a primary author, and she and Dr. Valerie Yerger went to DC to deliver that to the FDA as a requirement that under the Tobacco Control Act, the FDA has to make some sort of a decision on menthol products. Nothing happened for nearly a decade, and then that really became the basis of the lawsuit by ATCLC and the National Medical Association, AMA, and Action on Smoking and Health to force the FDA to finally take some action on menthol, which we hope is going to be the rule that's coming out. We're told it's passed through OMB and will be out early next week. And we'll talk more about what this means. And I think this is not the end, but this is just another starting point but it's an important starting point.
Thank you, Mark. And next, let's go to Ms. Magruder.
Yeah, so I have a funny story. In this fight that we're in, we have really become family over these years that we've been fighting this battle. So our organization was formed in 2008. We're California based. And then in 2009 was when the FDA was given the authority, the Tobacco Control Act was signed, menthol was exempted, given a pass. And that really became the focus of our work and has really dominated, because we do have jobs in California, that dominated what we were doing. So we were, going back to those FDA meetings, and we were strategizing and plotting and what were we going to do. And we just weren't getting any real traction. Nothing was really happening. So California based, I'm a San Franciscan, Dr. Phil Gardner, who was a Black Panther as a student, Dr. Valerie Yerger, we all had activism in our blood and kind of approached this from a very non-public health perspective, I think, which has been like our secret sauce. So we, when AIDS came on the scene, there was such little action on the part of the feds to do anything about AIDS. And out of San Francisco, out of California, and nationally, there was a group called ACT UP. And they would just go and act up to call attention to the fact that people were dying from this disease, and there wasn't any resources, there wasn't any money, and people weren't even saying AIDS. We didn't even know if it was AIDS at that time. But so we decided, well, we were going to consider doing some type of civil disobedience before President Obama left office. And so myself and Dr. Phil Gardner, we were going to be the activists in DC. Sharon Eubanks was going to give us some legal advice, and Del Monte Jefferson, who at that time, before NAPTN morphed into our Center for Black Health and Equity, he was the one who was going to bail us out or deal with the consequences for whatever we were going to do. But thank God, Chicago just jumped bad out there, and they enacted the first legislation regulating the sale of menthol in simple buffer zones, they created 500 feet buffer zones, a radius around schools, that these products could not be sold, and took them off. And since Chicago is a very dense city, urban city, that took a lot of retailers offline. And Dr. Val and I flew back to Chicago to participate in educating and informing the aldermen there in Chicago. And since my mother's from Chicago, I just had an attachment to that city anyway. So that was the first city to break bad under the leadership of Rahm Emanuel, who had been Obama's chief of staff and had been a congressman and been involved in some of these negotiations for the Tobacco Control Act intimately, did that legislation. The industry, of course, sued. Chicago held strong. And so the cities and counties and states that you see were able to get up under the shoulders of the great city of Chicago. And that, all that we see in terms of the local action that's happening, what is because of Chicago, and our work there was very exciting. And seeing, working with our Black aldermen and turning their opinions, educating them about this issue, was really a highlight of our lives, and one of the first successes that we had to encourage us to keep going. So kudos and thank you again, City of Chicago.
Excellent. Thank you all. Let's move on to our third question, and the order will be for Director Meaney, Ms. Magruder, and then Eubanks. So the third question, the FDA is slated to make a major decision on menthol soon. One of the challenges we face in our community is the fact that some believe the policy on menthol could lead to negative police interactions for African Americans. How can we address those concerns? Starting first with Director Meaney.
Thank you. I think that somebody is often the tobacco industry that wants to put that information out there, unfortunately. So I think communication and education are, as often the case, really the key factors in countering that. I would say that the important, from our perspective, all of the policies that we develop, everything that we put out is specifically intended to not include any sort of penalties for youth users. Anybody who has been targeted predatorily by this industry shouldn't be subject to additional penalties. We don't want to increase police interactions. I mean, all those things, we know the negativity of that, both, for that interaction and more systemically. So I think it's a red herring argument that the industry likes to put out there. They like to add penalties and try to penalize kids for the use of the products. That's a tactic that they've used for many, many years. And unfortunately, they have many advocates that are kind of helping them with that messaging, which is inaccurate. So I think that good policies are focusing on the retailers, the distributors, and manufacturers, those people who are actually responsible for this epidemic. So I think it's duplicitous. We know they're going to raise social justice arguments in a way that really turn the social justice issue on its head, and it's incredibly frustrating. And I know I think that Ms. Magruder is going to go next, and I know that she has some firsthand experience in cities like Oakland and in here in the Twin Cities where I live in directly countering that. But it has to be done, often, immediately. And I think it's constant.
Yes, so I'll chime in here now. We have been dealing with the rhetoric of the tobacco industry for decades, and the way that the industry utilizes our people to carry their water, to deliver their message, was documented in our Dr. Val Juger and Ruth Malone Smoking with the Enemy, through the tobacco industry documents, their internal documents. It lays out how they systematically go in and get with African American leaders to espouse the tobacco industry rhetoric. So we're living in a time of racial reckoning in our country. It's very painful. I literally cry. I live in the Bay Area. When I drive down the gas station where Fruitvale about Oscar Grant was filmed, which really wasn't where that was, my heart is broken. And so the industry, the tobacco industry, what makes me so angry is that they latch on to Eric Gardner and George Floyd and Trayvon Martin and Oscar Grant. They latch on to our legitimate concerns, grievances, and fears about the murder of our people at the hands of officer-involved shootings, and sometimes at our own hands. They latch on to this when they are the #1 killer and targeter of Black men and Black people, killing 45,000 Black people every year in this country. No comparison to the homicides that we deal with. And so if they want to help Black people, it's like they want to keep us alive so they can sell us their deadly product and kill us slowly. If they want to help us, why don't they deal with some of these police unions that block true transparency and authority over some of these rogue officers that are brutalizing and killing Black people. The laws that we're passing, that we're working on, they are not about the individual. They are not about asking a Black man on the corner, are you smoking a mentholated cigarette or non-mentholated? It's about the manufacturer. It's about Reynolds American. It's about British American tobacco that also wreaks havoc in Africa. This is a global issue. So the folks who are concerned with our legitimate concerns and grievances, they have no right to latch on to those while they are the ones who are responsible for so much death and destruction in the Black community, and that the people who are dying are the adults in our community. They're their parents and grandparents. They are the foundation for our communities. And when you take them away at the age of 54, at 58, I have a lot of living to do. I have a lot of people depending on me to be alive. So I just think about if I wasn't here because I had fallen prey to the tobacco industry, the impact that has on our community. It's irreparable intergenerational harm. And that's how we need to frame this. And we have to deal with police reform. We have to deal with these issues. But the tobacco industry, they do not get a pass to continue to kill us in these vast numbers while we're working on the things that we must deal with and come to grips with in our United States of America. And I'll pass it on to Sharon.
Okay, I agree completely with everything that Mark and Carol have both said about the source of this information, talking about, they're criminalizing the use of menthol cigarettes. And then the word is being spread in large part by the tobacco industry saying that's going to happen. So what I did in preparation for today is I went to the source. I went to the FDA's website to see what the government said about things like this and put in writing for everybody to see. And about a year ago, when they were looking at evidence-based actions aimed at saving lives and preventing future generations of smokers and address the menthol issue, among other things, here's what your government said. If implemented, the FDA's enforcement of a ban on menthol cigarettes and all flavored cigarettes will only address manufacturers, distributors, wholesalers, importers, and retailers. The FDA cannot and will not enforce against individual consumer possession or use of menthol cigarettes or any tobacco product. The FDA will work to make sure that any unlawful tobacco products do not make their way onto the market. Those are two completely different things. The prosecution under any law that goes forward that bans menthol versus the police actions that we see, and particularly what we saw with Eric Garner, because they use him as an example because he was selling loose cigarettes and saying, see, this is what happened here. That issue of what the police killing Eric Garner, that's what happened, has nothing to do with the question of prosecution for those who might violate the federal law dealing with mentholated products that has been a long time coming, and hopefully we're getting a lot closer. So consider the source when this information comes out. Educate your public, our public, about what's happening and why this is being said. And make it very clear that the government, because I know a lot of people don't trust the government, but the government took the action of putting it on its website, so they can't deny it. The word is out there and it's for everybody to see. And it's very similar to the policy that the government uses with respect to cannabis. So, they're not going after the individual users, and that's important for everybody to know and to make sure that that word gets out.
Thank you, Attorney Eubanks. We are on to our last question. Thank you for the excellent information that you all have provided. Make sure we get this last question in 2 minutes or less, and after that, we'll have 1 minute for closing remarks. So the last question, starting first with Ms. Magruder, then Attorney Eubanks, and then Director Meaney. The FDA is expected to enforce the manufacturing aspect of the menthol ban, recognizing that our state is challenged by preemption at the local level, which limits the ability to work on menthol flavor ban policies. What can be done locally to move this best practice policy forward in Wisconsin? Starting first with Ms. Magruder, Attorney Eubanks, and then Director Meaney. 2 minutes.
Okay, yes. I just want to add on to the last question that the African American organizations that are in support of taking menthol off the market, the National Medical Association, which is our Black doctors, Delta Sigma Theta Sorority Incorporated, they have passed 2 resolutions about supporting getting menthol off the market, and also their local branches are working, local chapters are working on these issues locally. We also have the Black nurses, and so these are our national organizations, our Black Doctors, National Medical Association. So those are the folks that we need to trust with this issue about what we need to do about this products as going forward. Now, with respects to preemption, if the FDA, if the national moves, then that takes care of the state preemption, because we no longer have to try to get the local policies passed. And that's, rather than go city, state to state, which is what we're doing. But what we need to work on is we need to work on influencing of watching over the rulemaking process as we move forward. There'll be other opportunities. It's not a done deal. There are other opportunities for anyone in this country to have input into this process. And then we also need to be heavily working, advocating for cessation services for our people, and to understand that cessation in our community is more than about setting a quit date and knowing your triggers, that there are things that need to be addressed with Black people and smoking. And we want that same pernicious attention and focus that was put on us to get us addicted to these products. We want a positive pressure put on and a positive support for our people to let them know and to provide them with the resources of whatever they need to get off of these addictive products. And that includes addressing the social determinants of health and the political determinants of health, and creating a community where we're telling our smokers that we love them, we need them for their families, and we need them for our community, that we're all in this together. And no one loves a Black menthol smoker more than the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. So creating that environment and changing community norms. What we do is about changing community norms. So where I grew up in San Francisco, there were, liquor stores, and on the corner, I bussed myself out to a different district. So I would ride past Bayview, Hunters Point, the Fillmore, our jazz and blues district now, out to the avenues where those stores didn't even exist. So some of this is changing our community norms where it's easier to make a healthy choice than a negative choice. What we're doing is not about individuals, it's about a community, and having community support to live happy and whole and healthy lives.
Thank you. Attorney Eubanks.
And I'm not going to sugarcoat this. It's going to come down to litigation. It always does. And I love litigation. Okay. You get the answers to the questions done. But let's look at what preemption is. That places the federal government at the top of that pyramid. And some of the things that you may have faced because of state preemption will be eradicated by the federal preemption, federal law coming in and taking the place. So there will be some of that. But bet your bottom dollar that there will be litigation challenging even things that happen at the local level as being not part of the overall scheme that has been developed by whatever it is that the FDA comes out with. Make sure you participate in any regs, discussion of regs that are being published to implement the changes to the law, where, that's where you get to make your arguments and get things resolved before or pre-litigation. But don't let your guard down. Get ready for it. And, in terms of, I'm sure, without even looking, that Mark's organization is already thinking about what's next with respect to what kind of litigation the companies will bring because of this. It's coming, but it doesn't mean that you can't defeat it. Just don't get tired. Don't let your guard down. And it's like Shai's poem said, it's not over. We're just getting warmed up here.
Thank you. Let's go to Director Meaney.
Thank you. Yes, I think preemption is a tactic that the tobacco industry first weaponized in the 1980s and has been used by other industries. It has proliferated, unfortunately, in ways that are impeding all sorts of progressive and socially justice-focused policies. In Wisconsin, I know that the 1996, I think the Fond du Lac case, which I still think is not well reasoned by the Court of Appeals, unfortunately, is still state law. And so it does impede local activity. It would be great at some point to have that either relitigated or have a change or a clarification on the part of the state legislature to allow for more local activity. And I know that's really difficult. Removing preemption is incredibly difficult, and that's been proven time and time again. So I think absent that, I think what we need to do is make sure that this kind of meeting where you have people from all sorts of different organizations. We are not meeting with just our own lane of people, of commercial tobacco control people, but we're meeting with faith communities and with social justice organizations and with housing advocates and with environmental groups. I mean, everybody has a vested interest in this issue, and that's the way to kind of bring it up from the grassroots and make sure that it's a priority for legislators. At the federal level, I think I agree with Ms. Eubanks. I think we are anticipating there's going to be litigation. I think there will be opportunities to be involved, and I encourage you to do that, to file comments with the FDA, make sure that they understand the importance of this issue to you. But I think even best case scenario, we know that the industry again, this is really, really important to them. And so they will do everything they can to kick the can down the road, to delay, they will litigate this issue. And so I just want to emphasize, we don't want to rely solely on the FDA. We want to make sure that there is state and local protections in place, that the enforcement is done, the way that you want it to be done, in Wisconsin. And I think that's it's great to have the FDA doing their thing, but we know that's probably going to take quite some time. And how many lives will be lost because of that? Many, many more, unfortunately.
Excellent, excellent. And thank you so much for those remarks. Thank you all for your knowledge and experience and expertise. Now I'm going to ask you to lean into your disciplined speaking expertise, and each one of you has 1 minute to close. We are just right on time. And so 1 minute for closing remarks. We'll go with Attorney Eubanks first, then to Director Meaney, then to Ms. Magruder. 1 minute, if you could provide your closing remarks, 60 seconds.
60 seconds. Well, in closing, I'd like to say that it is perfect that organizations who are not just lawyers are involved in these issues, because these issues are about people. I'm not saying be patient and wait. In fact, I'm saying just the opposite. Be vigilant, move forward, ask questions, and get answers, and continue the advocacy efforts. One of the things that I learned in working on tobacco issues is how important the work of advocates is to the ultimate outcome, and that cannot be underestimated. The power of the people exists, use it.
Director Meaney.
Yes, thank you. I guess, I just want to make sure that we all of us continue to move this issue forward. We know that it's happening. I mean, the momentum is unstoppable, but we want to make sure that it happens in the right way, and we want to make sure it happens in the fastest way that it possibly can. I would say we don't want to rely, and I'm being a little bit repetitive here, but we don't want to rely solely on the federal government. We know that action is going to be happening, but we know also that the better opportunity is at the state and local governments levels to craft policies that we know are going to do what we want them to do. And to be able to enforce them the way that we want them to be enforced. So it's going to take everybody. It's going to take, the folks here. It's going to take every other type of organization who has the vested interest, and everybody does. Everybody has a vested interest in a healthier community, and especially to break down some of those racist barriers that have been in place for far too long.
Thank you. Excellent. And last but not least, Carol Magruder.
So my words are to dig in. We're getting ready to really talk about No Menthol Sunday. We have in the Bible, gird your loins, because the fight is really on this year. This is our year of No Menthol, the African American Tobacco Control Leadership Council. We have many, many events. We're going to have a major national conference in this September in Washington, D.C. We will have some travel scholarships for people because it's expensive to get there. So our website is savingblacklives.org, savingblacklives.org. Please sign up and we will get you information, because we want the community there. As Sharon said, advocates are so important, and that this is not an individual fight. So you need to get with an organization. So the Center for Black Health and Equity, our organization, Lorraine's organization, we can help to guide people of what needs to be done and when, because this is a long fight. Whatever happens with the FDA, we're in it till the end. And this is the beginning of the end, even if we have a good outcome. We passed the Voting Rights Act in 1965. We're still fighting, and we will continue to fight. And so people need to understand there's no magic in a law, that's the beginning, and that all of us have to do what we can and infuse this in what you're already doing. So that's why No Menthol Sunday, where are we without our churches? Our churches involved, our artists are involved, and we're getting such momentum, and we need to keep that going and to infuse that into what we're already doing. So we're not having so many different separate things, but they're all together and linked, because they actually are. Thank you. Excellent,
excellent. Thank you all to our distinguished and experienced guests for their wisdom, their knowledge, their insight. Very critical, very important. I've learned immeasurably in a short amount of time. We thank you for serving as leaders in the fight to achieve health equity. I will now turn our program back over to our brilliant MC, Vivian King.
Thank you so much, Pastor Lanier. And you were a brilliant moderator. And as you said, what wonderful information that we all learned. It was an insightful and powerful discussion about what we've learned today is a global issue, not just here, a global issue. Alarming statistics that warrant a bold awareness and a fight to the finish. Now, we know we could not open it up to questions from the audience, but we still want to answer your questions. So if you have some questions, put them in the chat and we will try to follow up following this event to answer those questions. So thank you so much for being patient and allowing that discussion to go on. Well, you do need to be armed with the right tools for this battle. So here today to help us go over National No Menthol Sunday Toolkit is LaTroya Hester and Michael DeMond Campbell.
Well, hey, everybody. I'm just so honored, Lorraine, to be here. I'm always so impressed with the way that you really amplify and take ownership of No Menthol Sunday. No Menthol Sunday is the Center for Black Health and Equity's National Faith-Based Observance Day. It's a time where we try to get faith leaders from all over the country to have those tough conversations about the role of menthol in their communities. And we rely heavily on coalitions and on states like Wisconsin to really blow it out of the water. I, of course, just as someone who has been at the first stage, it was this whole observance day started off with Delmonte Jefferson, our executive director, and myself in a parking lot. And he said, we need to have a No Menthol Sunday day, just like World No Tobacco Day, and let's go make it happen. And I didn't know what we were going to do as a first step, but as a first step, we built this toolkit that we're going to show you today. That was back in 2015. And since then, partners like all those who are here on the panel have really taken the concepts and those materials to another level. And I love to see it. I'm excited and proud to say that last year we had about 37 states involved. We want to see every single state do it the way Wisconsin does it. But when you look online and to see the kind of media that we're getting, we are reaching hundreds of thousands of people with this message. So just know that your work is never in vain, even if you don't see that traction the way that you want to see it right away. We have a couple of goals with No Menthol Sunday, and I want to share those with you really quickly before we go into the parts of the toolkit. Number one, with No Menthol Sunday, we love to make sure that we are promoting culturally competent cessation tools and materials that resonate with Black audiences. At the Center for Black Health and Equity, you know, this event is all about working with the Black church and those people who are believers of whatever faith. It's an interfaith effort, but definitely using those leaders and those trusted voices inside those spaces is really necessary for helping those who want to quit and guiding them in places where they will get the message. The next thing we want to do always is what this panel has done so beautifully, is to keep every single generation in remembrance of the evils of the tobacco industry and their lies and the way they try to snatch our real legitimate issues and twist it to their own benefit. We want to make sure that young people are not duped and not confused about who the tobacco industry is when they see it take other forms like vaping and the like. And then thirdly, we love that No Menthol Sunday is a real way to encourage advocacy, because within people's faith-based spaces, there's already a level of trust, and many faith-based organizations have already established credibility with their communities. This is a place where people can learn a little bit about menthol and its role in our community and move straight into action. And so we like to be able to equip people with what you'll see in the toolkit today so that they can just get started in your faith-based community, especially in the traditional Black church. You already have a place, you already have volunteers, you already have a table or a bulletin board or something. You may have a social media platform or two. So we encourage, especially a lot of churches, they even have access to AM radio stations. So we encourage you to take the poetry you heard today and place it. Take the imagery that's available in the toolkit and stick it somewhere. Make sure that these images and these messages get out to our community, because just like was shared earlier, many smokers, even in our own families or people who don't smoke, who just love a smoker, our people don't always understand what's happening on the political front. They don't understand the tactics of the tobacco industry. They don't know how the tobacco industry has infiltrated and marketed us. And so a lot of times what we think was just a personal choice, No Menthol Sunday is the time where we get to tell people the truth so that they can be motivated to take action. So we love to see that. We want to encourage you all to do that. When you are working with your communities, I want to make sure that you involve Sister Harriet Nim. Okay, you know who that is. That is maybe the retired nurse in your church. She's probably an elder. She usually wears a big hat or a white coat. You know who she is. And she always has the ear of the pastor. Okay, we want to make sure that she's involved because she's not afraid to talk about hard issues. And she already knows a lot about how to fight, right? The next group you want to make sure stays involved is going to be what we call the woke ones. You know, the woke ones, these are your college students, your high school students. They're always mad and angry about something. Put this information in their hands, okay? Because they are not afraid to challenge and make a whole lot of noise all over the digital internets and the interwebs, okay? So let's let them go into action. Make sure you involve your young people. And then thirdly, I suspect a lot of people here on this call are a part of what we like to call Mr. or Miss Coalition Builder, right? Those folks who know how to pull together multiple churches, multiple denominations. You've got the state tobacco control department in your backyard who's already has deliverables. You can use No Menthol Sunday as a way to reach some of those tobacco control deliverables that you may already have. We know that you already know who the nonprofits are in your community. So work with your coalitions, get together, think about how you want to observe No Menthol Sunday, make it your own. That's really all I have to share with you today. I want to just emphasize our theme for the year, which is bold awareness. Okay, we want you guys to be brass. Okay, the tobacco industry has always been that way. So we've got to be that way too. We are in the fight to the finish. Like has already been said, it looks like we're about to see some real movement this year. But whether or not that comes, we are going to keep fighting and we are going to stick it out. And I don't want us to shrink back thinking that the federal level, the FDA is just going to take it away. I want us to stay on our grind and stay in the ring. Michael, will you please share the pieces of the toolkit?
Thank you so much, LaTroya. Appreciate that. And what would we be doing if we send you into a fight without tools? So what I'm going to do is walk through the toolkit that LaTroya talked about, and I'm going to show you a number of resources that are available for you regardless of where you are. We have some things that are available locally for Wisconsinites, and then we also have things that can be used nationally throughout the country, regardless of your location and what organization you're serving. So for this, I'm going to share my screen with you, and at the end, I'm going to tell you exactly how you can go about getting the tools and the resources that you need to begin doing the work. So LaTroya talked about the toolkit. This is the national toolkit that has a number of resources and links inside of it, which is going to give you access to all the things that you need to download. Some of the things inside of the toolkit are going to include our planning tools. So we have a 10-day at a glance. If you're someone who's working within an organization and community and you're wondering, like, how do I really take action and how do I support this initiative? This is something that you can use to kind of help plan activities up until the day of No Menthol Sunday, which is going to be on May 15th. You're more than welcome to take this, mix and match, do it the way that works for you and your community. But this is just a little tool to help you get some ideas about how you can proceed and use the items that we provide in the toolkit. We also have an order form that I'm going to be sharing with you at the end of my presentation here. So if you're in Wisconsin and you want to put together some activities and you're going to be leading groups of people within your community with the No Menthol initiative and you want to wear the t-shirt to represent, we have a way for you to be able to order t-shirts. A lot of you who are here inside of the webinar have already registered and provided us with your size. So we'll make sure that you get that. So this is going to be something that's available as our thank you for supporting our work. The next thing that we're going to have is also signage and posters. So we have lawn signs that are printed up that you can place in front of your organization or in front of your home. That's going to allow people to scan that QR code and take them to the National No Menthol Sunday website so that they can read more about the campaign and get access to the resources. In addition to that, we have social media graphics, and that's something that is already available on our website, which we'll also make available to everyone again who registered so that you can start spreading the word and raising some awareness about No Menthol Sunday. You've already heard from Shai, one of our spoken word artists. We also have Ajamu, who's going to be joining us as well. But we have these brochures that we have printed out, but are also available digitally. So with the digital version, there's a link inside where you can actually download the audio recording of them reciting the poem. You can use this in a number of different ways, especially if you have access to online website, or maybe you're doing some social media activity. Use these in your reels, use this on your videos. You can use this on the radio station if you need to be able to submit that for an ad. We have a number of different ways for you to use the audio files as well as the brochures that are part of the kit. All right, retailer engagement. This is a huge one. So we talked about, who is responsible for what, and, where do we focus our efforts? One of the things that we've been able to do very well in the state of Wisconsin is focus on retailer engagement, not chastising them for selling tobacco products, but educating them about the problem and the initiatives, and then giving them tools that they can use to be able to figure out, like, how can I support this work and how can I take a role in this? So our retail engagement, our toolkit for that is going to be available for those who want to go to their local retailers, start that conversation. We have a number of retailers in the city of Milwaukee and Milwaukee County who are going to be hanging No Menthol Sunday posters and who have agreed to not sell menthol products on No Menthol Sunday. We also have the palm cards. So we talked about the tip from former smoker. These are printed palm cards that you can hand out at events and you can use within your organization. You can also post them as social media content. Again, we have posters that can be hung up in retailers, but can be also hung up inside of your organization just to bring some awareness and some education to people who see them. We have things for youth, kids, young adults, adults. This is something that we are very proud of. Every year, people love the coloring book. Every year, we feature a different artist for the coloring book. This year is an artist out of the city of Milwaukee named Shami, who has designed the coloring pages that you'll see inside of the coloring book. We have printed copies of these. So if you want to bring these to your organization, distribute them, and get people together to have a coloring party, that's something that you'll be able to do. We'll be able to get those provided to you. And then in addition to that, for those of you who are located in the city of Milwaukee, we already have a date secured. So Shami has agreed to take it to the next level and not just draw the pictures that are inside the coloring book, but she's also going to host a coloring party, which is something that she's been doing for the past couple of years within the city of Milwaukee. This is going to be done at the Quality of Life Center in the Milwaukee on May 14th at noon. So if you're in the city and you want to bring family and friends or help promote, this is the event that you can do that for. In addition to the coloring party, there's going to be a lot of other activities going on. There'll be vaccinations going on for those who need it. There'll be food provided. So it'll be a nice family-friendly day. Feel free to join us for that, and we'll make sure we make it nice and easy for you to share that information when the time comes to start setting up the registration. So I'm going to go ahead and turn it back over to our MC. Watch the chat, please, because I'm about to put the link. So we want to make sure if you need these materials that you can get them. We need to have your orders in before May 1st. So I'm going to put a link in the chat for anybody who wants to submit that so that they can get some materials to use within their organization. So thank you very much. I'll turn it over to Vivian.
Thank you so much. Again, that was LaTroya Hester who is the Director of Communications for the Center for Black Health and Equity, and Michael DeMont Campbell of We Merge Media. They gave you some great tools. And as he said, watch the chat. They'll watch the chat. If you want some of those tools, let them know. And also don't forget, if you have questions of the panelists, put that in the chat as well, and we'll try to follow up. I do want to recognize some champions that have joined us this morning, some officials that you need to know are here. Milwaukee Fire Chief Aaron Lipsky, thanks for joining us this morning. Solana Patterson from Senator Lena Taylor's office, and Tiffany Henry from U.S. Senator Tammy Baldwin's office. Thank you so much for caring about this issue and being on board so you could hear this information this morning. Now, I know after what we have already heard so far, you surely don't need any more motivation, but just in case you do, here today to share a poem he created in honor of No Menthol Sunday 2022 is spoken word artist Ajamu Butler.
Well, good morning, everybody. How we doing today? This has been a phenomenal program. I knew the toolkit was wholesome, but I didn't know we had all of that in the toolkit. So definitely I need to tap in on that link for sure. And this piece is called Be Bold in Battle. Be bold in battle. Every puff you take is destroying your opportunities to be great. For one, you spend too much money on cigarette smoke. For two, the stanky smell gets stuck in your clothes. For three, Less smoke in your lungs means more years to your life. And 4, your loved ones want to see you live long and whole. Be strong, be bold. With God ordaining your steps, nicotine will no longer have hold over your mind, your lungs, and your soul. Set goals and take it one day at a time. The fight against big tobacco won't be won overnight. We won't give up this mission. We are out to save lives. Please seek longevity in each breath you breathe. I do believe that with the faith of a mustard seed, you will overcome nicotine and succeed. If your willpower is all you have, then you truly do have all that you need. Through discipline and consistency, you can conquer anything. Once you let go of that addiction, you will start winning indeed. We are here with you in solidarity to fight against the big tobacco industries. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Ajamu. Excellent poem. Be bold in the battle. That's what he just said. Thank you so much. I also want to recognize too, Will Zalecki is here, and then Representative Supreme Moore Omakundi, or is he from Representative Moore Omakundi's office. So thank you so much, Will, for joining us today. So now you've heard all of this. It's time for the call to action. So I hope that you are feeling as inspired and energized as I am about No Menthol Sunday and the great work that's happening. We want to remind you all that No Menthol Sunday is Sunday, May 15th. You now have the tools you need to spread bold awareness about No Menthol Sunday and to help take this fight to the finish. Now, if you haven't already, please reach out and let Lorraine's team know what materials you need to observe No Menthol Sunday with your church or organization. As we said, if you need the toolkit, say it in the chat, and they'll take that information back and reach out to you. Reach out to your pastor if you haven't already and let them know about No Menthol Sunday. Talk to the people you know who smoke and let them know that they can get free help to quit in Wisconsin by calling 1-800-QUIT-NOW, 1-800-QUIT-NOW. Young people can also get free help to quit vaping by texting vape free to 873-373. Again, young people can also get free help to quit vaping by texting vape free to 873-373. There's so much we can do. My good people, we are near the end of our kickoff though, and I thank you all for being here and being so attentive and being so active in the chat. It has been a pleasure serving as your MC for this third time. And here to close us out is my good friend, Lorraine Lathan.
Thank you, Vivian, and thank you, everyone. I'd like to thank all of our presenters, our panelists, Vivian, Walter Lanier is our moderator, and thank you all for joining. There were lots of messages. You have the tools to do the work. It's time to get busy. Again, the theme today or this year is Bold Awareness, a Fight to the Finish. And we heard a lot of kernels of wisdom around this fight, that this is not an individual battle, the power of people, the power of advocacy. We heard be vigilant, move forward, ask questions, and continue to dig in and advocate. Let's not be fooled by FDA, this announcements that will be coming out. The battle is not over. We have lots of work to do. We thank you for being on this call. We invite you and encourage you to share these tools with others in the community throughout the state of Wisconsin. And we will be doing mailings also to a few of our other advocacy friends outside of the state as well. So with that said, I thank you. We encourage you, please come out on May 14th to our coloring party, which is, Michael kind of highlighted that. We've got a lot of things planned, and hopefully our spoken word artists will also be participating in that. So I just want to thank everyone. This is one of a number of events that we do each and every year, and I couldn't be more proud of my team and all of our partners that have been involved. So with that said, hey, believe it or not, on this date, we ended early, which doesn't happen often with
That does not happen.
That's not our cultural norm here. So it's just giving you more time to fill out the order form. That's really important to us. May 1st is the deadline. We're going to, as I said, we've been fortunate and blessed by the state and also by the Center for Black Health and Equity that is allowing us to make these resources available to you. If you look on the order form, the one thing I stole from you, Carol, is that we are offering many grants between $500 and $2,000 for organizations, faith-based organizations that are wanting to really dig in and help do some of this work with us. So again, please take a look at the form and figure out how you might want to be further involved and engaged in this very important work. Quite often, I mean, I've been doing tobacco for about 15 years now, and people just don't get it in terms of how this is related to all of the to many of the chronic diseases that our people suffer from. So please get involved, take this extra time that we're giving you to fill out the order form, and we will be seeing you long before May 15th because we want to support you in getting materials out to you. So thank you all for being in partnership with us. And with that said, I think we will conclude. Thank you.